great young player, 21 years old, 6'10", plays a lot like Tony Kukoc. Antipov, another very good player. Spiridonov, we know, can get up and down the floor and is a very, very good athlete. And obviously their captain, Maxim Astanin, is going to be key for them.
And I remember you telling me after you'd played them that you liked Sergei Bazarevich a lot, but he's gone off to play in Turkey now, not a factor for CSKA any longer. On the other hand, Thames Valley Tigers, Guildford's rivals in British basketball, and you know these guys like the back of those little hands you have.
Well, you're right. They're much improved, a much better team this year, not as individually oriented as they have been in the past. The two key players, number 10, Nigel Lloyd, who is probably having a most valuable player year for Thames Valley. He's had an excellent year so far. He is their go-to guy. Number 13, Lester James, who doesn't look like much, looks overweight, plays an awful lot like Charles Barkley, doesn't miss shots from the paint. Very key for them.
Okay, so Alton Bird has given us the Charles Barkley of Britain. Thames Valley's playing in white. CSKA's playing in red. And the first points of the game to Obrecht, number 12, with a three-pointer, and the Russians are off to a 3-0 lead.
I suspect what will happen here is Thames Valley will try very, very hard to get the ball inside, and that's a good sign. If Obaseki scores his first shot, he usually plays pretty well. If he misses his first couple of shots, he's usually not involved in the game. And
Michael Obaseki, a guy who was in the Great Britain squad in the training for the Olympic Games and European Championships this year. And you see Antipov, number 4, dribbling the ball out of bounds. It's off Thames Valley. And CSKA will put the ball back into play. 13 is Spiridonov, who won the slam dunk contest here, but meanwhile, we've got a long two-pointer by Antipov, and it's 5-2 for Thames Valley. We'll set the rest of the starting lineups for you in a moment.
And the key with both of these teams, to beating both of these teams, is you must be physical. Thames Valley is a finesse team. CSKA is really a finesse team. And you really do have to be physical with both teams if you're going to get any joy, because they need to be worn down.
And Nigel Lloyd puts in the 3 over Obrecht, and it's 5-5. Kondratov missing the 3 badly. Obrecht rejected underneath. Lester James with that block.
And there was no foul there. Thames Valley got away with a bit of a foul. There should have been one in there. The CSKA player got the rebound and got grabbed, but neither referee saw it. No foul.
And number 15, Kondratov, the 6'10" forward you saw launching the three-pointer. His shot even looks like Tony Kukoc's shot.
But he plays an awful lot like Tony Kukoc. He's very good in the open floor, and he really does shoot the ball well.
13 is Spiridonov. This is Kondratov. And Spiridonov steals. Kondratov converts it. It's 7-5. CSKA in the lead.
I'll tell you, a lot of NBA scouts are very interested in Kondratov because he's 6'10". He's got very good size, long arms, and he can step outside. So you know he's going to get a lot of interest from the United States.
Number 6 is Paul James, and number 10, Nigel Lloyd. And he's fouled as he goes up for the shot. The foul will be on Kornev, number 8. Kornev, Kondratov, Obrecht in the front court for the Soviets. Or I should say the Russians. Still a period of readjustment for one of the top basketball countries in Europe, as they've splintered into a number of different countries, all of whom are playing pretty good basketball.
Well, they have such a depth of players. You know, any country that has 7 million registered players, you're bound to find 100 or so good players. So they've got really good depth. It's a great basketballing nation, and they've opened up their game quite a bit. So many of their players are now playing in Europe as foreigners.
Nigel Lloyd hit both foul shots to tie the game at 7. So Obrecht lose the ball, but Spiridonov came up with it. He misses the shot, and we've got a foul.
I'll tell you what Thames Valley is, Mike. They are some very, very good athletes. They're Kondratov from long distance, but they've got some great athletes. Obaseki is a super athlete at 6'8", and Kevin St. Kitts is another great athlete at number 12. He plays the 3 spot for them.
And Obaseki had great position and elevation on that rebound just a second ago. Thames Valley with the ball. Nigel Lloyd into Lester James, no relation to Paul James. And he's fouled as he goes up inside. Body looks a little bit more like Oliver Miller than Charles Barkley. That's Michael Obaseki, number 11.
He doesn't look like much, you know, he doesn't look like he should be out there, but he gets the job done around the basket, and you've got to admire, he's only 6'5", 6'6", but he really does go to work inside the paint. Very rarely misses a shot inside.
So for Thames Valley, 6, Paul James, 10, Nigel Lloyd, 12, Kevin St. Kitts, 11, Michael Obaseki, and this man shooting the foul shot, 13, Lester James. That's their lineup. No substitutions so far. 1 out of 2 from the line. Thames Valley up by 1. 15 is Kondratov. 12 is Olbrecht. 4 is Antipov. See Olbrecht on the pick and roll. Nice little move. And we got the foul called.
That foul was on Nigel Lloyd coming over to help. Great screen and roll by CSKA, and that is one of Thames Valley's weaknesses. They do not play the screen and roll very well at all. They oftentimes get mixed up between, does the big guy switch and step out, or does he hedge his bets and help the guard get over? And they oftentimes get very confused about that.
Makes both foul shots. CSKA up in the lead by 1. Paul James controlling the ball and cutting through.
That's good.
Good look by Kevin St. Kitts across the lane.
That's good defense by CSKA. They got everybody rotated around. They got good weak side help, and that's why that pass didn't go through.
Kevin St. Kitts again. This time he's going to take it himself, and it's blocked by Spiridonov, our slam dunk winner. He gets up in the air, and we've got a foul, a traveling call on Olbrecht, who doesn't like that very much.
I'm not sure he traveled. I think it's plainly and simply he got his balance, and I think the referee was probably a little bit harsh on him there.
So Thames Valley set up once again. You see how the Russians slough off to help in that inside area.
Good defense by CSKA.
Nigel Lloyd trying the move, but we can start all over again. Good ball movement by Thames Valley, but nowhere to take it.
Yeah, they got the ball to the right man. If they need a basket, they're very good at getting the ball to Nigel Lloyd and having him create something.
And that pass just eludes the outstretched hands of Kevin St. Kitts, and the ball goes over to CSKA, Central Red Army Sports Club. And you'll see on their jerseys it says UCA, but that's Cyrillic for Central Red Army Sports Club, CSKA.
They're quarterfinalists in this year's European Cup Winners' Cup.
Kondratov with the pass into Olbrecht. And the hook shot slips through his fingers, misses the backboard, and goes over to Thames Valley. He wipes the hands off, blame it on the palms.
He did everything right except get a handle on the ball, lost control of the ball, and that was that. Lost it out of bounds.
Thames Valley still moving the ball around well. St. Kitts misses from the outside. That's going to be a two-pointer. 11-8, CSKA in the lead. Olbrecht steps just inside the three-point line.
Coaches from the CSKA team are pretty respected fellas. Both gold medal winners on that 1972 team.
That's right, there's an interesting little story there. As St. Kitts takes it to the hoop. Down by 1 now, CSKA in the lead by 1.
That was Nigel Lloyd there going to the basket.
My mistake. Long three-pointer by Olbrecht. He's not afraid to put it up. 14-10. Lester James inside, has it blocked. And we got a foul. Chasing the ball back from behind. I think he was a bit surprised by that one.
Well, he got caught grabbing the wrist of one of the CSKA players. And Lester James didn't take the ball to the basket as he should have that time, and that's why he got it blocked.
So the ball back to CSKA.
Michael Hales is in the game. That usually means that they've gone to a little bit more of a physical ball club, has Thames Valley. Michael Hales, very well known for his ability to defend and be overtly physical.
Overtly. Lester James on the rebound as Kondratov still can't hit from the outside. And St. Kitts throws that one away. Antipov on the break, takes it himself. Good position by James. They're calling the foul on him, which is a bit unfair because he only moved to the side to protect himself. That's going to put CSKA up by 16-10. And we'll be back after a break with the men's final from Crystal Palace. Join us then on Screen Sport.
Replacing number 13, Lester James.
Welcome back to Crystal Palace. When we left, it was 16-10, CSKA in the lead, but now we rejoin the game at 31-28. Nigel Lloyd has had 6. Michael Hales came off the bench for 6 to get Thames Valley back within 3. Ivanov 6 and Kurashov 4 for CSKA have kept them in the lead, but Michael Hales, as you thought, has had a big effect off the bench.
Well, you know, Michael is one of those, he's a very, very emotional player. He really gets into the game, very intense, and there, more times than not, he really helps you with his intensity at the defensive end. Sometimes he gets misconstrued and sometimes gets a little bit out of control, but as he's gotten older, he's learned to control that.
And you saw that's Michael Hales, number 5. Nigel Lloyd makes the first of 2 foul shots. Misses the second. He should get to shoot this one again, because Spiridonov was in extremely early. In fact, if he'd waited a little longer, he would have gotten the rebound. So Nigel Lloyd gets a second chance at that second free throw. And makes it. 31-30, CSKA Moscow up by 1. Thames Valley putting the pressure on. This is the men's final from the World Invitational Championship. Mike Carlson and Alton Bird bringing you the action on Screen Sport. The two-handed bank shot you don't see very often.
Mark Scott, very good at with an open shot. Does not miss open shots up to 17 feet. Get a hand up on him. He's not as successful, but he is very, very good at the open shot.
Olbrecht makes a little room for himself, but misses, and St. Kitts comes down with the rebound. Nigel Lloyd now, with this bigger lineup, moves up and controls the ball.
Lloyd's had 2 stints with the LA Clippers, almost making the Clippers twice before being one of the last players cut.
Again, good ball movement by Thames Valley and good defense by the Russians. Lester James making some space. He gets fouled as he goes up. The foul is going to be on Spiridonov. And that's good passing and ball movement by Thames Valley Tigers.
Whilst they didn't get much penetration, what they did end up doing is getting the ball where they wanted it, which was to Lester James under the basket.
Now, the interesting story, we were talking about the Russian coaches, both of whom played on that gold medal team in '72. The normal head coach, Ivan Edeshko, is the guy who threw the ball in on that inbounds pass to Sergei Belov that won the game, but he's actually the assistant today because he'd rather coach the juniors in this tournament, and his assistant coach, Stanislav Aramin, who also was on that team, is taking over with the senior club. They all coach pretty much the same style. It's not going to make a big difference.
Yeah, the players look the same, and the staff can be the same, and you'll find that they will all pretty much teach the same kind of basketball.
So Lester James puts Thames Valley up by 3, and this pressure having its effect on the Russians.
Steadroy Baker in the game, one of the Baker twins.
The Baker boys, the fabulous Baker brothers.
And they are very, very good little players. Both Ronnie and Steadroy are both excellent players, both coming out of that Brixton setup.
Brixton Topcats, who we saw in the junior final here on Screen Sport. Antipov, another good little player, hitting a jumper with a lot of arc, bringing the Russians back to within 1. Scott. Good offensive rebound work by Obaseki, but couldn't control it. And we're going to have a loose ball foul. It's called on St. Kitts with the elbow. Sorry, Lester James with the elbow.
Yeah, he definitely whacked Antipov right in the head.
I think they were looking for the foul by Antipov on Obaseki as he went up for the original rebound.
Well, they missed the first one, no question about it. They missed him pushing Lester James out of bounds, but they certainly didn't miss the second one.
Steadroy Baker. And again, fouls on Thames Valley. The man holding his position doesn't draw the offensive foul. And Alton, you were saying there's a bit of a story with the refereeing here.
Well, I mean, we've got 2 referees, one of which is from England, the other one from Australia, so they're going to blow a different type of game. You know, if you have a set of circumstances, the Russians certainly won't get the type of calls that they would normally get with European referees as they would with English referees.
Olbrecht puts Moscow back up in the lead by 1 over Thames Valley Tigers. Steadroy Baker with the ball. Went down the monastery and got that haircut. I think the same guy who designed the uniforms may have done that.
It's been a key acquisition Mark Scott has for Thames Valley this year. He's given them some depth up front. About 6'7", 225 pounds, good shooter. He's been around the English scene for a long time, Mark Scott has.
And a little bit of crowd noise to urge Thames Valley Tigers on. Olbrecht open for 2, misses. Scott misses the rebound, but he's going to be fouled. Foul will be on Kornev, number 8.
And the one thing that Nigel Lloyd has improved so much in his maturity as a player is become far more of a leader. And I'm sure Mickey Bett has asked him, the coach of Thames Valley, to be more of a leader, to give them more guidance. And you see him always talking, he's always talking to somebody, either the referees, the opposing team, but more times than not his own teammate, and that's good leadership. It's exactly what they need.
Seems to me that this year there's been more of an emphasis on domestic players in the British League. And, has that had a positive effect?
I think it has. You know, certainly a lot of these teams have gotten much better. You know, whilst the standard may not be as good as it has been historically, it has certainly become much better across the board.
And Kevin St. Kitts called for the foul reaching in. He doesn't like that. And Antipov's going to go to the line. He's a deadly foul shooter. And St. Kitts will go to the bench. You may have heard the stadium announcer making the announcement. Michael Hales comes in to replace him. And no sooner do I tell you what a good foul shooter he is than he misses it.
The Carlson jinx there.
If I knew it would work every time, I would do it every time. Okay, number 4 is Steadroy Baker. Number 10 is Nigel Lloyd. 11 is Michael Obaseki. 6 is Paul James. Got 2 small guards in now.
5 is Michael Hales.
And 13, Andrei Spiridonov, letting that ball go out of bounds. He's our slam dunk contest winner, which has to be considered an upset. And tries the running hook, misses, gets the rebound. Comes off to Thames Valley, 2-on-2. Steadroy Baker tries to finish left-handed. Takes a bit of a bump in the process, no foul. Antipov with a nice feed, and Olbrecht with the finish. Puts Moscow up by 2. Steadroy Baker's going to settle things down this time.
Well, that was one time Nigel Lloyd may have been better off keeping the ball himself as opposed to giving it to Steadroy Baker.
He tried to go up over the big guy and realized he couldn't do it and had to shoot with the left hand.
And got it partially blocked.
And Antonov misses the steal. Ball stays with Thames Valley. And we're down only to 24 seconds in the first half. Thames Valley take a timeout. I think Mick Bett's going to want to talk about how much time they'll work off the clock and what they do if they get the ball back.
Well, certainly, you know, you can diagram this one in your sleep. It's going to be pass, 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 get it to Nigel Lloyd and hope he scores.
And the Russians presumably just throw the ball down and hope someone can take a 3. Or
well, they'll want to go zone here, try and get the ball back, try and make sure that they challenge the shot without fouling, and I expect them to stay zone because Thames Valley are not great perimeter shooters. They have the capacity to be good perimeter shooters, but they're not great perimeter shooters. There's that replay. Great block by Antipov on Steadroy Baker's shot, and a great save there to keep it in play, and now they're off on the fast break.
And it's Antipov who keeps running. He doesn't stop and watch the block. A nice dish off, and Olbrecht finishes. Good end-to-end basketball by CSKA Moscow.
That's how to do it, folks. Transition defense to offense, and usually good defense gets you some easy shots.
And so many times, Steadroy Baker looking at the big guy as he went up, and the little guy came across to smack the ball away. And guess who's going to let the clock wind down a little bit? See the Russians sitting back in a 2-3. Concede the outside shot if you want it. And what they didn't want was the foul. Kondratov standing with his arms up. Says, no, he moved into me, but given that kind of a shot on a jump shot from the outside, if there's contact, the foul's going to be on the defender.
That's a good call that time. 50-50 call. He's up in the air. He's got to give him his opportunity to come down, and that certainly was a foul.
Misses the first. If it's directed at the referee, he doesn't understand the words, but he certainly understands the sentiment. And Nigel Lloyd missing the first 2. He gets 3 since it was a 3-point attempt. This hurts now. Makes the third. And Olbrecht's 3 misses at the buzzer. We're going to go in at halftime with CSKA Moscow up by 1 over Thames Valley, 37-36. Join us after the break for the second half. Dallas World Invitational Championships on Screen Sport. CSKA Moscow leading Thames Valley Tigers by 1. CSKA in red, Thames Valley in white. Mike Carlson bringing you the game with Alton Bird of Guilford, arch rivals of Thames Valley.
How about Alton Bird of Screen Sport today?
Alton Bird of Columbia University.
Yeah, that works. There's an offensive foul on Obaseki, who, to get his shot off, cleared out with his right arm and got called for it. Very good call that time.
Now, one thing we should mention, the CSKA captain, Maxim Anstantin, was injured in the first half while we were away from the play. He went into an advertising hoarding after a 3-pointer, and he went away for at halftime for x-rays. He won't be back. Vladislav Kondratov is still here, though, and he makes that 3-pointer. First one he's made so far in this game, 40-36 CSKA, and when he makes them, he looks a lot more like Kukoc.
An awful lot like Kukoc. He even plays defense like Kukoc.
And Kevin St. Kitts answers with a 3 of his own. It's still a 1-point game, 40-39 to CSKA Moscow. 12 is Olbrecht. 8 is Kornev. And 13 is Spiridinov, the leaper. But he leaps over someone's back.
Holding foul called of CSKA Moscow, number 8.
Oh, sorry. You heard the explanation. Looked like he leaped on someone's back anyway, but in the meantime, Kornev was holding underneath and called for it. Paul James at the point. It goes off Antonov's foot, right back into Paul James's hands. Nigel Lloyd with the ball now. Lester James underneath, off the front of the rim and off his foot or someone else's foot. It stays with Thames Valley. Must have been Kornev's foot.
Sideline possession to Thames Valley. Kevin St. Kitts finds Lester James and down to Paul James.
Kevin St. Kitts nearly dragging that pivot foot. And Nigel Lloyd trying to get Michael Obaseki, who was headed toward the hoop, but that Russian defense is tight.
It's tight. I think Nigel on that play probably would have been better off shooting it and letting Obaseki go to the rebound, because that's where his momentum was carrying him. And Obaseki does not have a great pair of hands. He is a great athlete, but he does not have great hands, and he'll be the first one to admit that. If he had better hands, he'd probably be in the NBA.
Nigel Lloyd hangs in the air a while and then banks it in, 41-40. And really the most interesting part of this game is watching Thames Valley's offense pass the ball around and try to find a chink in the the Russian defense, which they haven't been able to do too often.
They're very patient, and they work well together.
Funny little bank shot by Antipov. If Nigel Lloyd can hang in the air, then he can try it too. Seesaw battle here for the men's final, the championship. Russell Athletic World Invitational Club Championship at Crystal Palace. Lester James underneath puts Thames Valley back in the lead. We've brought you the juniors, the women's, and the men's consolation finals. And with the player down, now back up. Called on the back court, CSKA in a little confusion.
Well, I think what the Russians are saying is that Antipov got hit in the face. The referee closest to the play didn't see it, didn't stop the play to help him get up, so they end up throwing the ball away, trying to call a timeout.
Nice move by Obaseki, shot misses. Kondratov passing it out, Olbrecht from the outside missing, Spiridinov coming in from behind with the rebound, but it goes off his hands, and no lack of intensity in this game, but really the pace isn't as good as the women's final.
Oh no, there's no comparison. I'd rather watch Gonsalves play any day of the week.
16 minutes to go, second half. Senior men's final, 16th Russell Athletic Championship.
And St. Kitts doing some good work. Lester James having the shot blocked, but there's a foul.
But it was a great job by Obaseki to keep that ball alive. He tipped it to Nigel Lloyd, who then made the key pass to Lester James, who then drew the foul. It's great offensive board work. Obaseki reminded me of a guy from Detroit that time. What's his name? The Worm? Rodman?
I didn't think you meant Bill Lambier on the offensive boards.
No, he was active that time like Dennis Rodman is. He's just going after the ball, keeping it alive. If he can't tip it to himself, trying to tip it to a teammate. Do you know Dennis Rodman is averaging 19 rebounds a game?
Nobody's been doing that in the NBA since the days of Wilt and Bill Russell.
He's still averaging 19. It's amazing. his ability to rebound.
And he doesn't do it the way Moses Malone did by missing his own shots and getting the rebounds.
Exactly.
Kondratov missing. And the ball stripped away from Kornev. 3-on-1. Paul James, nice pass to Nigel Lloyd. That's a better way to finish. And Thames Valley now up by 5 over CSKA.
Good transition that time. James making a key pass to Nigel Lloyd to finish, and then good defense this time. And basketball, Mike, is a game of runs. You know, teams have 8, 10, 12-point runs, and Thames Valley right now is having a 7-point run. See if they can continue it this time down.
Michael Obaseki with the defensive play at the other end. Lester James just takes it to the hoop. 7-point lead for Thames Valley, and you get those runs by working at both ends of the court. Here you see now all of a sudden a little more intensity in Thames Valley's game, but Paul James called for the foul on Antipov. It's amazing how when one of those runs starts, how everybody's feet pick up a little bit and the heads go up.
You know, layups do an awful lot for your team, especially out of defensive transition, especially out of good hard work at the defensive end.
14, Igor Kudalin now in the game for CSKA. That's Kondratov, and he loses it. Nigel Lloyd with the steal. His layup's blocked, but the ball comes back to Nigel. He misses underneath. And Kudalin clears the boards and gives it to Antipov.
And if you watch this Thames Valley team, I mean, they are really active. They are very, look at their hands everywhere. Look at that.
2 blocks in a row. And the CSKA elevator doesn't get off the ground floor on those plays. Be a nice time for a replay. CSKA needs a timeout to regroup. Loose ball foul on Antipov as the ball was going out of bounds.
They call it intentional, so Nigel Lloyd will get 2 and possession.
And now down by 7. This could be a turning point in this game. Thames Valley picking up the pace a little bit, and that seems to mess up the Russians' defense.
Well, it always has, you know. As I said, both teams, you have to be physical with both teams, and you really have to take the initiative. Here's Antipov going to the basket, okay? No foul there where it should have been. He penetrates, kicks it out, but watch Thames Valley's hands. 2 guys miss. There's Obaseki to block the shot. James misses. St. Kitts misses. Then he gets the block. Great active hands there by Thames Valley at the defensive end.
And it all started off the first block by this man, Lester James, and on that collapsing defense that forced Antipov to pass back out to Kondratov.
That's right. They got good defensive rotation. St. Kitts, they're providing the help for Paul James, and then all of a sudden everyone else on the defensive end stepped up and rotated.
Nigel Lloyd having trouble from the free throw line. 50-42, Thames Valley up. They'll keep possession on the intentional foul by Antipov. A little frustration by CSKA. And now down by 8, CSKA really have to get their defensive intensity back to stay in this game. And one thing we haven't had is a burst from CSKA. They've played a very steady game, counted on their defense to stop Thames Valley at the other end. And not much question about that one.
Well, not good shot selection. That's not where they want Mike Obaseki to be. They want him to be inside where he can use his quickness and his ability to slash to the basket. He's not a 15-foot jump shooter. And usually when he shoots 15-foot jumpers, he is going to get his own rebound.
It's nice to avoid the guy between you and the basket on the way. Kondratov, nice little move. Leads down to 6.
And I think the Russians are getting a little bit frustrated with Thames Valley's quickness and their hand quickness. You know, their hand speed's very impressive. I think the Russians are having a lot of problems with that.
And Lester James underneath. The Russians don't want a foul. Uses that bulk to make a little room for himself. Antipov losing the ball, grabbing it back off his body and falling into Mike Obaseki, who grabs the ball, that hand speed again, and we'll have a jump ball. Three to 1 on the big guy, Alton.
Right. Glad I didn't take those odds.
Mike Obaseki in the high post, moves down low. Lester James moves through the high post.
Now the Russians they're a little bit confused and bemused by this defense that Thames Valley's thrown. They played excellent defense, Thames Valley.
And before the shot, stepping on the baseline, ball goes over to CSKA.
Coming into the game for CSKA, number 10, Alexei Madeyev.
Mickey Bett, a former teammate of mine at Crystal Palace and at Kingston. Played at Kingston for 3 months last season before he ended up at Hemel Hempstead.
He's older than you are, isn't he?
No.
Is anyone?
No.
And St. Kitts with the foul, 54-44, Thames Valley in the lead. We'll be back with the finish of the game on Screen Sport. When we left, Thames Valley was up 54-44. You see the score now, 67-61. CSKA's just scored 7 points in a row, 2 3-pointers by Antipov. Lloyd and Obaseki combined for 10 to keep Thames Valley in the lead. But CSKA showing signs now of getting back in, and Nigel Lloyd does it again. Lead up to 8 at 69-61. Kondratov hammered as he goes up for that one. No call, no harm, no foul. And Nigel Lloyd, sorry, Mike Obaseki.
Lloyd scored that one.
Lloyd, yeah.
But Obaseki almost knocked the air out of that ball on that blocked shot.
Trust your own instincts, not the directors. Olbrecht misses the 3. Obaseki on the rebound, but punched out of bounds by Spiridinov.
And now it's crunch time for Thames Valley. So many times they've been here before, so many times they've been in finals and haven't been able to come up with the trophies. And right now, it's gut check time.
Thames Valley losing finalists here 2 years ago. Paul James. Nigel Lloyd with the ball. Someone yelled, "Go, Nige."
Surprise, surprise.
I don't think he needs to be told. Paul James all alone on the path to the basket. It's going to be a goaltending call.
And Paul James doesn't look like he does much, but he certainly provides Thames Valley with the leadership that they need from the point guard position. Doesn't make any mistakes, doesn't take shots, maybe shoots 3-4 times a game, but gives them the balance they need. With so many good athletes, they need somebody who can just settle things down, doesn't make any mistakes. Thames Valley going to a 1-3-1
double dribble. Double dribble as Kudalin dribbled up to the 2 men, stopped, and then dribbled through them.
Well, Mickey Betts is doing a good job of changing his defenses, trying to keep the Russians off balance. And he did an excellent job that time.
Antipov knocks the ball away from Nigel Lloyd, but it'll go back to Thames Valley. Long cross-court pass. And back to the other side. Nigel Lloyd's alone up top. Misses the 3. Sorry, comes off to Antipov. Takes it all the way himself. And he's right on Paul James after he's a heads-up ball player. He's looked good in this game.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's played for Russia before. He is a very, very talented player.
And he'll be called on the foul there as he tried to steal the ball away from Kevin St. Kitts. CSKA take a timeout. And do you think they'll come up with some pressure now?
I think they will come up with some full court pressure, maybe some zone pressure, and they'll want to force Thames Valley's hand. There's only just under, there's a minute and 55 left. And really, I'm sure they will want to exert a lot of pressure. Look for Mickey Betts maybe to come with a smaller lineup, maybe to get Steadroy Baker in the game, as well as Paul James and Nigel Lloyd, where he's got 3 good ball handlers.
I wouldn't be surprised to see CSKA put a bit of pressure on and then go right to the 3-pointers on the offensive end. If you don't have the easy shot underneath, kick it back out for the 3. And here you see Paul James on that layup.
Well, what was great about that is Thames Valley moved the ball, Nigel Lloyd kicking the ball out. They rotated the ball around the other side, and Paul James was isolated one-on-one with his player.
And he saw Ivanov come over, get called on the goaltend.
The loud and boisterous Thames Valley fans there.
Not quite a division's worth. And a little bit of a block by Spiridonov, but it comes right to Lester James, and the lead's now 12. CSKA with their work cut out for them. About 1 minute and 40 seconds left here in this men's final from Crystal Palace. Kondratov open for the 3, but misses.
Big rebound, number 11, Michael Vasecki.
And there you see a little bit of pressure from the Russians. Looks like they want to trap, and they do. Nigel Lloyd dribbles in the corner, cross-court pass to Lester James. Looks like Thames Valley's making problems for themselves there.
Yeah, they were a little bit lucky. Nigel Lloyd did made the cardinal mistake, dribbled right to the corner where he could be trapped, then threw a cross-court pass, and then Lester James and St. Kitts got it. Well, I'll try and keep it in if you try and keep it in.
So I think Thames Valley now with the timeout.
I'm sure Mickey Betts said, you know, let's get together here and try and figure out we're trying to win this game, not lose it, folks.
Took one look at that. So let's talk about how we break the press. Lots of time to get back in the game, even though you're down by 12. All Thames Valley have to do really to keep the lead is avoid making mistakes. Keep possession, make them foul you.
And make your foul shots. There's no faster momentum changer than missing foul shots down the end of the game. Teams get exhilarated by the fact that they can foul somebody and know that there's a good chance, especially in one-on-one situations, where they may get the ball back.
And we're going to have a foul on Spiridonov, otherwise would have gone back court.
And that was definitely a foul. He certainly pushed Lester James.
I don't know what he was clapping about there.
No, I think Antipov was saying, listen, give us a call at least once.
So if Lester James can make these foul shots, the championship of the Crystal Palace tournament should stay in Britain for the 5th straight year.
A lot of people criticize the fact that British teams have won this tournament in the last 5 years, whereas previous to that, there were all foreign teams that won it literally right back to 1979, and some very good teams. But what's happened is teams have, certainly the Maccabi Tel Avivs and the Milans, and you know, they've become much bigger institutions and demanded more money to come. And you know, the tournament has changed, but that doesn't mean that British teams haven't earned the right to win this championship, and Thames Valley has certainly earned that tonight.
Tel Aviv winning it 4 years out of 5 in the early 80s. University of North Carolina beating the Great Britain national team in 1988. And Murray Meadows Livingston?
I wasn't on that team.
Sounds a familiar name. Kingston, I think you were on that team.
Yep.
And then Sunderland Saints beat Thames Valley 2 years ago, and Kingston won again last year, beating this same CSKA Moscow team. And Lester James ices this one for Thames Valley. And the Golden Bird Award. The word from the bird, not from the herd.
The word from the bird.
Who's our MVP for this game?
No question, Nigel Lloyd earned his keep, 35 points, or I should say 33 points, and certainly has been the leader for Thames Valley, exactly what they needed, has provided a stalwart performance, and has done an excellent job.
Kondratov throwing in a 4-pointer from about 45 feet away. I think he threw that one in from Brixton, not nowhere near Crystal Palace.
He's a much different player, though, and I'm certain that these CSKA players will be a bit tired. They're playing in the quarterfinals of the European Cup Winners' Cup, as well as their own domestic league, as well as this tournament. So I'm sure that on the list of priorities, this tournament is probably a major priority, but
not the major
priority. That doesn't detract from Mr. Lloyd and the performance of the Tigers. They have done an excellent job the whole tournament and have beaten everybody that has been put in front of them to win the championship.
Interesting spin move. Paul James sacrifices his body, what little of it there is.
There wasn't much contact either, but he was certainly falling before Kondratov made his spin move.
And St. Kitts fouled by Kudelin just before he might have had a jump ball. That wasn't much of a foul.
Well, I guess at this stage of the game, you know, you want to blow the fouls, the same fouls that you would anticipate blowing early in the game, but it wasn't much of a foul, but there you go. Can never always get it right. Could never give me the job of being a referee, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know when we're not on the air.
No, that is a no-win situation.
That's right.
Someone's going to be unhappy no matter what you do. No.
Yes! Kudelin. Another four-pointer. Firing the ball from all over southeast London. Kondratov with a three.
And you notice how quickly these Russians get right back in the game.
If they could have done that about 10 minutes ago, we might have had a bit more exciting finish here.
And might have had a blowout.
But it's funny how you react to what your defense is going to give you as well.
As Yogi Berra says, it ain't over until it's over. And I never understood that either. Only Yogi did.
Yogi Berra, for those of you who aren't aware, famous catcher. A very good ball player for the New York Yankees in the 50s and 60s. As famous for his language as for his hitting. Once asked when ordering a pizza if he wanted to cut into 4 or 8 slices, said, "You better make it 4, I don't feel too hungry today." 84-72. Kudelin with the rebound. Obaseki with the rebound for Thames Valley. And it's all over but the shouting. And just at the buzzer, that's how it's going to end. Lester James walk over the line.